Aditya, thank you for being here to this co-working space, which is themed on Breaking Bad,
Right.
which I don't watch, but I'm
I
pretty
have,
sure
I have,
you know?
I have watched.
Okay.
Yes, it's an interesting show.
Okay. So thank you for being here. I am Richa. I'm very boring introvert myself, but I'll speak good words about you. Okay. So I'm Richa. I'm 10 years into B2B marketing, SaaS, all things email marketing, demand generation, working with founders to get the zero to one stuff done.
Right.
It's a long journey. Things have been boring at times, but conversations like these are required to spice up the life. So here it is. So I thought that the entire world is doing podcasts. I am not someone who would lag behind, right? So I would do my bit also.
Right.
And I could not think of anyone as a better alibi in this first crime of mine. You are the podcast pro. As I have like literally titled, I'm going to title this such that it's my first podcast, but you are a podcast pro. So here you are, Aditya. We both are in Delhi right now, and so Aditya is a podcaster. He's the founder of Monument. Monument is everything about when someone wants to learn the biggest, smallest, or the most hidden ways of making money.
Right.
We have all heard stories about the topmost founders, the most glamorous founders, the biggest brands, but there are certain stories that also need to be heard in terms of something that just gets buried in the
Right.
in the clutter or in the population. So Aditya is the one who covers, which that's the idea that I personally like. You need not uplifted all the time, right? You need to push the right side of people. So I'm glad, and thanks for driving 1.5 hours to reach this place, Aditya.
Thank you for inviting us, and it has been an interesting, convo which we did before this podcast. So thanks for that also. And yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, like, just to set some context, this podcast is probably just going to be 1/4 of the duration of the conversation that we've already had.
Right.
Because interestingly, we have had so many common things to talk about. Like,
Right.
you are founder of a podcast, you have been a YouTuber, you have monetized all forms of content possible.
Trying to be.
You are a publisher also. Publishing is very close to me because I've been into ad tech and programmatic for 7 years now. So if it comes about ad revenue and all that, we can go on and on. But
exactly,
that's
which we did already, right?
We already spent from 12:30 to 2:30 for that over healthy lunch.
Right.
So that topic we'll secure for some other day. But today is about I'm hosting you, but you are essentially gearing me up for my first podcast.
So, for your podcast journey.
For my podcast journey, who knows?
Right.
Air bunnies. Right. So now let me quote it. The title of this podcast is my first podcast with the podcast pro Aditya, because he has literally done more than 50.
I am also a newbie, but
no, you need not be so humble. Okay. Okay. So okay, this is like a pilot podcast for me. Right. Okay. I am going to throw a really weird bunch of questions at you because like I have hosted n number of folks over webinars, panel discussions, roundtables, ask me anything, you name it, whatever format, I've done that. But it was always for an employer I was with. It was always for a purpose. There was a very marketing agenda driven to it. Right. I am on the other side today. That was like probably years ago. I'm like just about entering the 11th year of my career now. Right. And I am on the personal branding boat now. So obviously had to throw some spotlight on myself, but with the right set of people. Right. So Aditya, by the way, I've watched all of his podcasts with all sort of founders and creators who just have cracked the way to making money. Exactly. And I'm pretty
scaling their business, scaling their startup.
Of course.
Among other things.
So I get, and obviously with the 3 hours of conversation, I do have this sense that you make people very comfortable on air, off air also. So let's find out today that whether you are going to let me, your host, mess up comfortably or not today, because I know I'm going to goof up.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, Aditya, that was the intro part. Now we'll, move to
the serious part.
The serious, I'll not let it be serious.
I know.
I will extract that seriousness out of you. Right. And we'll try to keep it on a light note. But okay, but still the agenda would be that I take some takeaways from this conversation, and anyone does, because I'm seeing so many people are getting into podcasts. I have been into like friendly behind the curtain podcast with other marketer friends of mine.
Right.
As seamless as it sounds and it looks, I mean, on camera, it might just appear two people are bantering,
Right.
but that's not the case. We know that we took a lot of time to set this up for this background and everything, and you had to drive a long way.
Right.
So, let's just start with some very bare minimum stuff.
Right.
Okay. I have orchestrated this conversation in a very peculiar. I would like to think it. I would like to think that this is going to go creative. I hope it does. So we'll start with very basic stuff, which is I forgot my first one. This is the first podcast goof up.
And guys, this happens. Anyone who's starting, you are going to mess up a lot. That is fine, right? So again.
So like I mentioned, right, my first with the pro. So I had to goof up, and this will go out. We'll not hide this part.
Right.
So we'll start with rapid fire.
Right.
Okay, I know.
Generally, people end with rapid fire.
Rapid fire ends. Rapid fire is usually lined up towards the end of the conversation, but I'm into marketing. I have to reverse the entire
things
loop.
Up, right.
So you tell me, you have done over 50 plus recordings. You have done it with young creators. You've done it with seasoned founders, and I'm assuming millennials like us. Okay.
Yeah, we have done it.
So it's a mix of boomer, Gen Z, millennial, everything. Do most of your podcasts go as planned, or by planned, I mean whether they go smooth, structured, or scattered? If you have to give a one-word answer, because this is rapid fire.
I think it would be scattered. I have never followed the script, right? I have always gone beyond the script, and I have prepared questions in the flow. So that's my rapid answer.
Oh, that's the honest answer.
Yeah.
Okay. How long does the entire podcast setup take? Which like this room, setting up the mic and stuff?
I think you could say anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. What are the most? Have you ever been ghosted by a guest?
Yes.
How many times, if you remember?
I think twice till now.
What is your backup then?
It's fine. We don't have any backup. Like we are leaving from our house, and the guest suddenly calls us like, "Oh, we can't join today because of so and so reason." That is fine. I understand that sometimes some emergencies can happen. So yeah, it's fine.
Oh, so that's not exactly ghosting. By ghosting, I mean like how you would ghost people on dating sites. That level of ghosting.
Oh, so never. Nobody has ghosted us like that in that way.
So thankfully, we are dealing with good, interesting people with ethics, podcast ethics.
Right.
Okay. The most interesting question for me in this rapid fire is, what have been the most, how do I put it? What have been the most weird hiccup moments? Like in general, I'll tell you, the most hiccup moments could be, you can choose one of them, but you're allowed to go out of the syllabus. Awkward silence, weird reflexes, or technical glitch, mic drop, or sorry.
I think everything has happened to us, right? Technical glitch has happened many times. We did a podcast, but we forgot to record the mic. Like we forgot to record through the microphone. So this has happened. Another thing is the guest was using somebody's other's name. He didn't knew my name. So that has also happened.
Okay. So what was he calling you?
I don't exactly remember.
Rahul?
Any weird name. He was not calling me Aditya. So that is fine. We didn't,
You did not bother correcting him?
I did not, because I thought he was just using my name for the introduction sake, right?
Okay.
So I thought, let it be. Let's go. I told me I go with the flow. That is also.
Okay. I don't think that I will make that mistake. Or the least that can happen, which is happening with me right now, is I'm forgetting questions and I'm referring to my notes back here.
Right.
But so what I want to drill down. I want to zoom into the awkward moments part, because I think this is the part that cringes out most of the people.
Right.
It does to me for sure, because one honest admission is I get cringed out very easily.
Right.
So what is like the weirdest reflex you might have seen? By reflex, I mean whether it's a body gesture or it's just some super anxiousness that was visible in the person. Have those moments happened, and which like put you at a spot ki, okay, I know I'm going to edit this out?
I think some things have happened, but we have not edited that part out. what happens is a lot of guests, they do a lot of hand movements, right? And it comes within the frame. So we can't do anything about it because we have to literally cut the person out if we want to cut that particular frame, right? So this has happened. Like people are nervous and they will start doing fast hand movements. So, but that's that.
But generally in leadership,
Hmm.
this is, I mean, this is like proper psychology that is taught to people that, you know, hand gestures, they make you look powerful or
Right.
they make you look confident. But is there a way that you can identify that this movement is not happening out of power or confidence? This is now just a sign of nervousness, restlessness.
I think the older founders, they don't show that level of nervousness, but I'm talking about young founders. Sometimes they get nervous in front of the camera. So that's understandable, right? So yeah.
Okay. I think my biggest awkward moment would be here, over which I think marketers are not allowed to do that, but it does happen with me sometimes that I just make a grammatical error while speaking. This is a marketer's nightmare.
Actually, I have made errors in the introduction part as well, right? I forgot the guest's name and I have to, I think, repeat it twice or thrice. Then I think I got it right after the third time. So that can also happen, right?
Okay.
And the problem is when that happens is like when you're talking with the person who is the main lead of that particular team, but you are doing podcast with 3 other people from their team, then you will obviously forget their name, right? Because you're in constant touch with that particular person. So that can happen.
This is new information to me. Is it a general trend of podcasting multiple people from the same company?
I'm talking about the co-founders actually.
Okay.
Yeah, there were 3 co-founders. I was in touch with only one, and I knew his name, but I forgot the other 2 co-founders' name.
Okay.
So that's why there was some hiccups, but it's fine. They understand. And in the 3rd or 4th attempt, I got their names in the right order and the right names.
Okay, I think so. The output of the takeaway from the rapid fire round is that awkward moments will happen always.
Right.
Even clearly, it's the my goof ups which just happened. Like I'm stammering. That just happened in the first version, and you have also experienced those. So, now I want to add some decent spice to this conversation. So, the intent is no matter. It's fine. This podcast might turn out like to be a big goof up. I can already sense it's going there, but I'm relieved that you're here. So now let's move to the easy part. In easy part, I will throw some very easy to answer questions at you. Easy to answer questions, as in this is generally the easy part of podcast. Right. I mean, these are quick fixes. Anyone can do this, and especially helpful for newbies like me who may be wanting to start a podcast, but they might feel overwhelmed. Camera in itself is a very overwhelming item altogether, but there's other things. So, okay. So what are the, like starting with the very bare minimum thing, what are the kind of props or material do you think?
Equipments you can call it.
Yeah. No. That will be part 2.
That's different.
My question 1 is what kind of props brighten up the ambience to, just give the room a glow up?
Very interesting question, because when I started, I never thought about that. Right? I was just into recording, production and everything. And eventually it hit me, like, how can I improve my environment? And then I understand that lighting is very, very important. I think if anyone is starting out, even it's a webinar, even it's a online podcast, right? You should definitely improve lighting for you as well for your guest also. So that's why we are having this light here.
This white light that is just on my face, and I'm trying not to blink over it.
Right. So I think lighting would be super important.
I thought you would say stuff like plants to add that cool factor in the room.
That is also important. Your background in this case, it's very interesting. But in major cases, you can't control your background. What you can control is your lighting. And you can also enhance your background using a light. You can put a light downwards. It can be an RGB light, and then you can use a front light for your face, and it will the RGB light down there will improve your background. So I'm talking about the things you can control.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm talking this because we travel for the podcast, right? We don't have anywhere. We don't have a fixed studio which we can bring plants and improve our background. If you have a fixed setup, then obviously you can have plants and everything. But if it's not a fixed setup, then I think lighting would be more important.
And that is a point to note. I mean, I've studied journalism. I wish I still had some command over lighting.
Oh, we have a
But we have Super Ashish here who is handling all the
journalism
lighting.
student.
Yeah, this background is not as hip that it's appearing here thanks to the lighting and this ocean.
Right.
Is it true that most of the podcast conversations, I mean, when the final output comes,
Right.
it appears very clean, very structured.
Right.
But we know, I mean, for sure we know that there's a lot of mess happening behind the camera. Ashish will go through it after this when he just
Right.
gets bored with so many edits looking
Right.
the same thing again and again.
And what he does is he doesn't listen to the actual conversation when it's happening. Because he said, sir, I have to obviously listen when I'm editing. So I will listen it at that time when I'm editing the episode.
That I can see because he's on his phone.
Exactly.
Okay. So we'll pull you in last moment.
Obviously.
So when the real stuff is happening, just like this, I'll make an honest confession here. I did plan a structure for this, which is right on my laptop right here. Right. But I think we are just like maybe 60% on the route. 40% is really happening on the go.
Right.
So as a pro podcaster who has like hosted almost all kinds of people, all kind of founders and creators, my question has two parts. Do you do most of the conversations eventually go in that scripted, structured, planned manner? They flow on the go? And part two is, which one do you eventually advocate after having done so many podcasts?
I think my aim is to go with the natural flow of conversation, and I think in maximum cases, I think whenever we are talking naturally, we have already covered the script which we prepare. We have already covered those questions in I think 70-80% of the time. So I would personally advocate for natural conversation. You can prepare a structure, but don't be adamant about that structure that I will only follow this. Because a lot of times you will ask interesting questions, you will get great insights if you follow the natural flow of the conversation instead of sticking to the script.
Just like one good thing is happening about this podcast so far, which is not a goof up, which is a pure win, according to me.
Right.
Okay. Now moving on to the next part of the podcast, which is the hard part. The hard part is, so we are pretty much, I think, through. I'll just summarize the easy part, which was in this part we discussed. All the key takeaways from a logistical point of view as to what are the props that you would need to have the ideal setup. Typically the amount of time it requires to set everything up, especially if you have efficient people like yourself and Ashish.
And one more thing I would like to add, and sorry to cut you off, that you don't need a team to start, right? And you don't even need a lot of equipment to start. So I think that's very important. If somebody is listening and they want to start their own podcast, don't be stuck in that loop that I want good equipment, I want a good team, I want a physical location. Don't get stuck in that loop, I would say.
I can actually testify on that because like just after completing 10 years, it's now, I'm also kind of en route in a journey where I'm pivoting from my previous employment and contractual days to, becoming a fractional marketer. So in the journey, I'm now speaking with a lot of people. I had this in mind. Every marketer gets this in their mind that let me speak with other founders and CMOs to, maybe just network and podcast. But then my first set of questions was, okay, I need to buy a domain now. I cannot invite everyone to my co-working space here. Somehow I don't like that grainy effect on Google Meet or Zoom. And do I need to like create a theme? And then I need to have a landing page or, some material to show. But I think I started with a very small step that let's just reach out to one person. And let's just hear what they have to say. Like this, our conversation, you are the first in-person person, which is why I'm titling this podcast as my first, but he's a pro. But I've had, gladly I've had very interesting Google Meet conversations with, other CMOs and founders who are either building or in their go-to-market stage, or maybe they have made it, at least to the first stage. So I don't have recordings, but at least in here, I do have all the takeaways.
You have the experience and the takeaways, yes.
And just that, I have a habit that I usually take snaps and then post something about it later on LinkedIn as a
takeaway for other people,
yes,
to learn
as a takeaway for other marketers also, and a souvenir for myself that, I really spoke with this interesting person, and it's kind of a souvenir memento for myself. So that part, I think I can definitely summarize that you do not need a fancy setup to start. This is the fanciest. for me, which may be very bare minimum for you. But having conversation with real people, and even just them agreeing to the moment that okay, let's have this snap.
Right.
That itself just proves the credibility and gives you that kick that you can start small.
Exactly.
So now moving on the hard part, I've added a cry emoji next to
Next to that, I
next
can
to
see
that caption,
Ah.
and again it's brackets mein Richa asks Aditya. So my first question is, what is the weirdest reaction or response you have received from any guest on air?
On air. That's a little, challenging.
Which is why we call it the hard part section.
Right.
Cry emoji.
Right. I would not call it weird as per se.
Difficult to handle.
Difficult.
Unexpected.
That could be. I think I have already talked about that. That one was like when the guests keep on speaking, and they don't want to, hear the other person's thoughts. So that has happened with me, and in that particular scenario, you can't do anything, right? Because you can't cut off the guest. So I think that would be the weird. Or
no, I can give you the lever. You can cut off the host because I think I'm figuring this host speaks.
I think that should be the case. I mean, it should be a natural conversation between two people, right? And and ideally you should listen to other person thoughts or suggestions as well. So yeah, when that doesn't happen, so it doesn't feel like a conversation. It feels like a one-sided conversation.
All my life I've been given the feedback that Richa, you need to be a better listener. You may be a good speaker, but you need to be a better listener. So but now that on air I'm hearing this, not even directly, but I still want to take it.
Right.
Some top 2 or 3 things, or maybe even one, whatever comes on top of your mind, that you think should be planned, no matter how much we want the conversations to flow naturally.
Right.
But there are some etiquettes or some housekeeping that you should swear by. No cheating there. You can't be lazy.
Done. Many things are coming to my mind, but I think the first one would be to prepare an introduction. Right. You should definitely write the introduction of
Right.
Yeah, please make sure you write or I mean type in your laptop, whatever. But you should at least have a prepared introduction for your guest and make sure you revise that because you might forget it in front of the guest. Or you can record it
beforehand.
Beforehand also you can record the introduction of your guest, right? So that would be first. Second, what happens when you start, right? You will get nervous. I think you will move your leg, you will move your hand, or either you will move your neck.
Just like I'm getting, but I'm good at pretending.
You are very good at this actually. But if someone is doing that for first time, because that happened with me, I used to, whenever the guest used to speak, I used to do like this. And I used to keep doing
constant nodding.
And Ashish was very frustrated with that. And it's a bad habit, right? You should, try to be in a good posture first and make sure that you're calm. Right? Composed. I think that would be the key takeaway from this. And you can prepare that in front of the camera beforehand. You can keep preparing. You can sit with your family members, put the camera, talk with them, so that at least you have the basic, fundamentals, like how you should sit, how you should talk, how you should move your neck, how you should ask the questions. I think it will be better for you and for your guests also.
I think a decent or untamed body language is very important. Otherwise, this, the restlessness is really contagious.
Right.
Just like sleep or yawn, maybe.
Right.
So I did watch a few YouTube shorts, and they were from some, seasoned psychologists and body language experts. That the distance between your earlobe and shoulder, they determine how confident and how actively you are listening to the other person versus someone who's like this.
Oh, okay.
Or like this.
Oh, we should sit like this, right?
I mean, the higher the distance between this is, that means you have more command over your body language right now. So I don't know whether this happens naturally to me or not, but I've just kind of grasped it, maybe because it's a takeaway. You really act upon it. That's one. And there was, again, to compliment the second point that you just mentioned, that if you keep speaking and I'll just constantly go like that is.
I used to do that actually. If you will watch my first few episodes, I used to do that. So Because I was nervous, yeah. I have never done this. So that I wish I could improve that, but yeah, you guys have a chance because we are talking about that. So
That's okay. I mean, initially, so even during my early days when I was hosting people over webinars and panel discussions, and those were really big industry experts across regions, not just India, whether they were from the UK and all. Sometimes I really had a hard time understanding accents. There was one person who was, it was really difficult to understand their Britain accent. Um, I think with just like in a few calls, I got accustomed to what that person was saying. Maybe we just developed such a rapport that I started getting a pulse of that person. But it kind of that even virtually you can make people uncomfortable if you're nodding too much or there's too many
hand gestures, hand movements,
too many hand gestures. So
lighting is not proper.
We'll edit this part out. So if too many gestures are happening, so yeah, I think these are very important because not just the flow of the content, the quality of your content, but if it's being delivered with such restlessness, that's just not going to work.
That's why I told you that the setup doesn't matter much, right? Whatever your setup is, like if you need full-fledged camera, it doesn't make sense. You can start with basic. You can start recording with your phones. It's just the content should be good. Whatever you are recording, with whom you are recording, that's what matters the most, I think.
I think the first video for LinkedIn that I recorded, just not LinkedIn exactly, it was just LinkedIn was one of the channels where I posted it. So it was at one of my friend's apartment, and she has a very really cute dog, indie dog. So we were walking the dog and we were just recording on the go. So obviously the dog was more restless. I think that the pet was more restless, and I'm not a pet. I'm not a dog pet parent as such. I'm a cat parent, which they don't demand anything. But dogs can be really energetic and demanding of attention. So she was really not letting me be in one space. We were like sitting on a swing or something, maybe near the pool side, but there had to be just so many moments. So yeah, that was one point of realizing that this too much restlessness is happening. But some interesting outputs also came because natural.
I think you should get out of your comfort zone also, right? Whenever you do that, something unexpected happens, something nice might happen. I want to ask the same question to you. Like, what's the biggest goof up that has happened during your webinars?
Okay. So we were hosting a really senior, almost VP of ad operations or someone of a similar stature from the US, and that person was probably like 17, 18 years experienced and very elder in experience, age and everything. So, and that person, I can tell with the way he just jumped into the event at the right time. I had normally I do suggest from my side that if you want to do dry runs or rehearsals, we're happy to do that, or maybe just go through a set of questions. He did not he was not requiring any of that.
Season pro, right?
Yeah. He jumped directly into a conversation, and we were trying this thing to have the guest more comfortable. Then let's just have someone from their region only host them. For a change, I played the moderator in that webinar, not the host. So this new fellow who had joined us, she was also from the US, and I thought, okay, this is going to be great. This guest is really going to resonate with this host, and they have that match vibe because they're from the same region. Probably they'll do some small talks around San Francisco, coffee shops and all. So she named him wrong first thing. And
again, the same goof ups, right?
The same name goof up, which is why I wanted to come to this point of this podcast where I would mention this. So first things, she named him wrong, and I could see the face on that guest's. I could see the expression on that guest's face that okay, what just happened? Okay, fine. I'll just pass this. Maybe these guys will edit this part, but it was a live session, right? They were attendees in the webinar, and she just asked him, so what do you do? And I was like, no. This person is on this podcast because he's known for this in the industry.
Right.
And everybody in the office knows what he does, which is why everybody wanted him to be on the podcast. And that lady, she just asked that, what do you do, sir? So he actually took like a 5-second pause. He's like, okay, you need to know what I do. I think that was a very
Because
like that heart pumping moment for me, and I so wanted to shut that webinar then and there, but it was 100 attendees. We couldn't have sacrificed that.
right. I think on that's the risk. I think on the webinars is that you can't do anything if a goof up is happening, right? On podcast you can edit it out, but on a webinar live call you can't do anything.
Yeah, because we had just jumped our attendance rate from 30 to 40 people. We had started receiving 150, 200, even some cases 250 people.
Okay.
So that all the pressure used to be on me that I need to continue doing my best to handle the moderation part. Eventually it became a team activity that someone is handling chat. It was good to have problems.
Right.
But goof-ups were also happening as much as we were scaling. So
I think that's a part of any process, right? Whenever you are learning something new, whenever you are doing something new, failures are bound to happen. But I think you should already understand that, right? That failures will happen, but you don't need to get demotivated or stop working altogether. It's fine, it will pass.
Yeah, it was just a very small piece of not advice, it was really a critique feedback which I took as an advice that you need not achieve perfection in everything.
Exactly.
You just start small even if you're unplanned. I think that is one thing that I learned from one of the founders I was working with recently, and I'll swear by that secret sauce for sure.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you if you can list a few cringe moments where you just deemed that this was cringe for you. They may not be cringe universally,
right?
But maybe they got you irked a little bit, or there's some cringe element attached to it.
Right. I think it happened with me, and that is when somebody doesn't reach us on time. That is, something which I think it would not be cringe as per se, but
irks,
right.
bothers.
Right, it bothers me, right? And I can understand genuine reasons, but somebody guests are arriving 2 hours late. So it's a waste of our time.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Has that happened?
Yeah, it has happened. That's what I'm telling you. And we did that podcast. I told them we have to be somewhere else, and we left. I didn't want to do that, but if there is a genuine case, it's okay. I can understand there was an emergency. We can also cancel, but to wait 2-3 hours and then not record.
And what was the reason that was given by the person?
They told me that okay, they might understand from this podcast, but they told me that they are stuck in traffic. A police has challan their vehicle and they are impounding their vehicle, sort of thing.
Okay.
So I didn't know what happened after that.
You can decide whether to edit this part or not if you think that the guest will. Although this is sounds like the most cliche reason.
Exactly.
Maybe
fine.
They just had a long breakfast.
Because I think we already waited 40 minutes and then they told us that this has happened and they will again be late. Like they did 2 hours or 2.
Nobody would be dealing with cops for 40 hours straight.
Right.
It was made up.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it's fine if you can't reach them, when you could just said so, like we won't be able to join today. That is fine. You would have packed and left. But things happen, so that is fine.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to place a few scenarios here. Right. And these are handpicked because I've experienced these. So I'm going to place these scenarios, and in response, we are just going to nod our heads as yes or no.
Okay.
That whether we find this thing cringe or not, and you and I are allowed to differ. Okay.
Makes sense.
So So my
but just a disclaimer, I think I don't get cringed out easily. So
you've already revealed that you were going to nod no on most of the answers.
Just a disclaimer, yeah.
So I'm going to present a few scenarios to which we'll have to either nod yes or no, as whether yes means yes, this moment it's likely to cringe you out, or no means okay, you're cool with it. Okay, so scenario number 1: when you hear your own voice in audio. In audio,
yes.
Okay. When you see yourself on the camera and you just don't like the way how you look. Okay. Now you have heard the audio part, you have gone through the camera part. Now when you just feel, when you're listening to your own dialogues, or when you're hearing yourself speak, or that rate of speech.
I think earlier I used to, yes, but now I don't, because I think it's in your nature. Like when you keep on recording and keep seeing yourself, it's habitual, I think. So
I used to get cringed out a lot when I used to watch my own podcast recordings. Sorry, my webinar recording.
webinar
Sorry.
recordings, right. So I think when you start, it happens, right? You like, yaar, maza nahi aaya, whatever might be the reason. But I think after, few months, you get used to it. Like, it's fine.
But do you relate to this point that whenever we send voice messages to someone, let's say on WhatsApp,
Then
Telegram,
you listen to yourself,
you
like
listen to your own
how
recording,
I'm sounding, right? Yeah, this happens.
that moment doesn't cringe me out.
Right.
But somehow when it's for an event or some work stuff.
Because I think then you're conscious, right? So that's why that happens.
I wish it was that seamless, just like a WhatsApp note. Okay, so moving on to the last part. Last but not the least, Richa and Aditya ask each other.
Right.
I'm going to throw a question and you will throw it back at me.
Okay.
And these are pointless stuff.
Right.
Okay. This is just your internal stuff.
Right.
Because eventually you create podcasts for your audience, but they are for yourself also.
Exactly.
Obviously. And everybody likes sticking to their certain personality. Like I have mine, you have yours.
Right.
I'm supposed to be the sarcastic one here. You are deemed to be the serious one, but I think I'm bringing that thing out of you.
Right.
Good. Okay. So the first scenario, lame stuff. Okay. Disclaimer, lame stuff. What would you name your mic?
I think I would name it Mike. M-I-K-E.
Meet Mike? The mic?
Yes.
No brainer.
Exactly.
Great.
And what would you name?
I think Michan, because that's my cat's name. I like it very much. It's like around me all the time. And Michan was Doraemon's cat, who apparently Doraemon himself was a cat.
Okay.
I know it's weird, but I gave you a disclaimer. There's going to be pointless stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. Next.
But good choice, because I mean that's on top of your mind, right? That name. Nice.
Okay. Next question. What kind of edit outputs do you like bringing for your stuff? Like I know Monument is attached to a certain theme. But these days, there's good thing is that we are not limited by creativity, or everybody wants to imbibe their personality in their content. Money is about money making, but money making can be fun also. Everybody doesn't need to slog all the time.
Exactly.
So what is the kind of outputs do you like, but you still want to keep it in line with Money Mint's personality? Do you like energetic edits, fun edits, or serious edits? Formal.
I want fun edits, and I want it can be energetic, but I think it is not happening now. So,
why?
Because as I told you, like I'm not a very a fun person in front of camera, at least. Behind the camera I am, but in front of the camera I'm a very serious guy. And yeah, let's hope it changes in the future, right? By doing these kinds of podcasts. So let's see. It can happen, right?
Yeah.
And what about you?
I think I like a mix of fun and semi-formal. I'm good with emojis and all to add that informal touch to it, which is why I say semi-formal. But like probably my definition of semi-formal is it's a very thin line between semi-formal and informal.
Right.
I do prefer emojis and a little bit of that cut edit to have that energy. But interestingly, I've seen some video edits, or that thing is evident in some creators. They are like, I'll try to imitate a reaction that they would do.
Right.
And this is not just on video, even in their LinkedIn comments, for example, I can sense that energy. So there's someone who would, like I would comment as, yo, let's go, great, with an exclamation or maybe an emoji.
Right.
You might go as, let's go.
Right.
But there is someone who would go as, let's go, with those 10 syllables.
Right.
So I don't think that energy, that level of
energy,
no dopamine works for me. So yeah, quirky, fun, tad bit of energy, but cut is good.
Good, right? I also believe that, but I think for short form of content, for long form, you can't do that actually.
You need some stability in long form content, but behind the scenes in moderation, everything is fine.
Yeah, you can add bloopers to chill the mood, or I mean, yeah, you can do a little bit of whatever personality you want to add to your video.
So as we know, a lot of Indian television serials or commercials, or in content in general, background scores are really important to make or break the entire relatability of that content.
Right.
So there's a mix of those ASMR podcasts, or there's a mix of those really high intensity music or podcasts, or there's just pure, I don't know, maybe some jazz music playing at very, very low volume in the background just to set up that ambient mood podcast.
Right.
So what kind of audio
Hmm.
do you prefer in your podcast to set what kind of a mood?
I think, as I have told you, that we run a very serious podcast, so we don't like to play any music. But just to lighten the mood before actually recording the podcast, we generally talk with guests. I think we get into like how your day has been, what you are doing. So we try to do that to just set up the mood. But we don't like to play any music or any type of sound or jazz or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I think this goes in the final part, but this probably question relates back to one of the parts that there's a few housekeeping checks that you have to have clarity on when in the post-production stage of your podcast.
Right. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, you can play a jazz or some type of light soothing music in the background, but you can also add that into the post-production also. So it's totally your choice, but it should not interfere with your voice or the ability of audience to grasp what you're talking about in the podcast. I think that should be your takeaway from this year.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I think any podcast that has subtle music, background music should be background.
Exactly.
It should not be at the forefront. I also personally, not just podcasts, for any kind of content you are consuming, somehow I personally have this habit of if it's just like a visual stuff, like some shopping haul,
right,
top 3 things to buy,
tour video,
whatever. So I would deliberately keep the audio because some song is playing in the background or any of that sort. So I think especially for professional videos and the ones that are working best on LinkedIn are, I think, these very smooth jazz music playing in the background, because you want to show that some even if two serious founders are talking, still they can enjoy it. It could be a lighthearted conversation, but eventually you're talking serious stuff, so you gotta pay attention.
And I think you can keep the music in the intro part, then you can edit that music part out. So, I mean, variety of things you can do, but ultimately depends on what you are, putting out in the world.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Aditya, those were 4 fun parts. We did a rapid fire, we did the easy way, the hard way, the cringe moments, and now the final touch was great.
Right.
So we are at the end of my first podcast, but he is the podcast pro.
I am the pro, but I think I can't call myself pro now because what we have talked about in the podcast, I also go through the same things today also. So I think, I have improved a lot. I would definitely say that. But to get at that pro level, it's going to take some time.
You are monetizing every content. You are going to do that, but no worries. I think my second with you will be much more polished. That I can understand for sure. But it'll be fun.
Right.
I'm not going to stick to your seriousness, let me tell you.
But that's the good part, right? Podcast should be fun.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Okay. So the agenda setting for this podcast was,
and we are doing at the end of the podcast.
I told you I will reverse the game because I'm a marketer. I have a creative end, right? I'll not do things conventionally.
Right.
So everything that happens in the beginning, we'll do at the end, and vice versa. So the agenda for this podcast was, the title was My First Podcast, but he is a pro, that is there. Obviously, I being the host, this time I had to position myself 10 years in the industry, marketing, everything 0 to 1 from with founders. Hosted so many people over webinars and stuff, but couldn't find anyone better than Aditya to support me in this first podcast venture. Let's see how this pans out after the edit. Vouching for Ashish. But what I really expected, which was the agenda setting, I think that was like fulfilled to the point, which was, this podcast is not about how to record the perfect podcast, because that will not happen.
Exactly.
You have confirmed that.
Definitely.
That will not happen.
I mean, there is a famous line I say in I think most of my podcasts, like whenever Google launched, it was like version 1.0. So whenever you are launching something, it's going to be your version 1.0 and you will keep iterating. And the Google you see now, I think it would have come after like hundreds or thousands of iterations. So you have to keep that in mind.
Lakhs, millions, I'm sure. So the most interesting part in my agenda setting was that should you expect that this podcast will be about how to record the perfect podcast. Well, no. This expect banter and expect random or unfiltered questions and answers about really things that bother us before we plan about a podcast, or even when in your sleep when a thought of podcast comes. Like I admitted to you this morning I had some butterflies, right? But honestly they are no more there. So one thing that I personally wanted to decode for myself towards the end of this podcast, that what will I discover about myself? Am I restless? Am I awkward? Am I shy? Or what?
No, I think you were perfect. Like you were better than me, I'm thinking.
No, that I'll not agree. But I think a realization about myself, I'm not shy. Maybe restlessness is in me all the time, forever. But thanks to you, you made everything very comfortable, and you let this host mess up really comfortably.
No.
So
It was, I think it was perfect mix of everything. So
okay.
It was interesting.
So Aditya, thank you very much. And
thank you for hosting me and Ashish. And,
yes, we decided 20-25 minutes, but we have exceeded.
Right.
And but no worries. I would love to have you back again. We do have some more agendas to touch upon.
Exactly.
So yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys. Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe to Richard's channel.
I have no channel.